Welcome back to Homesteading with the Zimmermans, where each week we give you another episode of what's happening here on our Northeast Iowa 21-acre homestead. My husband Alvin and I have been married for 25 years and we have 7 children. 5 of those children still live at home. Our oldest 2 are married and no longer live at home, so this means we also have 2 son-in-laws and 1 grandson so far. So on our 21-acre homestead, we seek to preserve the self-sufficient lifestyle of our old order Mennonite heritage for the next generation. We involve the children in every aspect of the homestead, from raising and harvesting our own meat, gardening and preserving to fill the family's larder, or preserving the dairy from the family milk cows, plus all the many other skills that develop the character and integrity and relationships of a family that seeks to bring glory and honor to their Heavenly Father.
Hello YouTube family. It is definitely fall here. The hummingbirds are still here, so that is definitely a positive. And it's been a very busy week. I went to the city and finished the audio recording of the Heart of the Homestead, and that always makes my week real busy. So that is all done, checked off the list. A lot of you have been receiving your books and leaving some really kind reviews and comments, and I'm so very, very grateful for you. So today, in today's video, we are going to take a little garden tour. There's not a lot happening in the garden right now, but one of the best things that is happening in the garden right now is raspberries. So my nieces were here yesterday, and I showed them where the red raspberries were. So I don't have to pick red raspberries today, but we have been picking them by the quarts. So the girls, my nieces, pretty much picked all the raspberries that were here. Right off the bat, let's look at the elephant in the room, which is this tall corn. Guys, the cobs are larger than they're taller than my head, and I grew this corn. Somebody gave me this seed, and I think it's called Silver King, and it's the kind of corn that you dry and grind for maize, and you can also feed it to your animals. So, we're going to, here's the other thing. So since it's fall, the nutrition starts leaving the grass in the pastures. So we're going to start chopping this down and feeding it to the cows a little bit at a time each day. And I really don't need a lot. I only need a few stalks that I'm going to let dry for seeds for next year. Because my goal as we go forward is to plant more food for the animals, and this corn is going to be one of those crops that I plant for the animals. So we're going to chop most of this down and feed it to the cows. So I've got a lot of peppers here. One of the things that I want to can, but I don't have time this week, is it's like rotel. It has tomatoes and hot peppers together. So I'd like to can some small jars of that. So I have plenty of jalapenos. My bell peppers, I thought it was going to be a great year for bell peppers. And then here's what I did. RuthAnn saw a space in her garden, and initially, May RuthAnn had left that space because I didn't want the corn too close to my green peppers, my bell peppers, because I didn't want them casting shade or taking nutrients from my bell peppers, so I left a nice big space. But then, a month later, RuthAnn comes along and says, "Hey, look, there's a space in my garden." And guess what I put in there? I put some butternut squash seed in there, and then the butternut squash climbed all over the bell peppers, molested them to no end, and so it's not been a real good bell pepper year. I don't know if that's everywhere, if it's just my garden. But I have been collecting bell peppers, chopping them, putting them in bags to put in the freezer, patiently waiting for enough tomatoes to be ready so I can make pasta sauce. And so I've been doing the same with some onions. I've got onions and peppers in the freezer so that when it's time to make pasta sauce, I don't have to go buy onions and peppers. I've already got them in the freezer. So these big red flowers here are called President Cannas, and they are from my maternal grandmother. And no, they are not hardy here. I have to dig them out every fall and store the bulbs in the garage and then replant the bulbs every spring. But they just bloom all summer long in these big red showy blossoms. And the zinnias are still very pretty. I've started letting some of them because I want to collect seeds. So like this one down here was just gorgeous. So I'm letting that one dry for seeds. I'll let some of these dry for seeds. So if you have zinnias and you're collecting your own seeds, if you take these off, if you pinch all of these off that have single layer petals like this, and maybe like this one, then the bees, your pollinators, will be forced to pollinate these. So pollinators prefer to pollinate these. These are easier for them to collect pollen from, right? So the more that they pollinate these, the more of these there are going to be. So if you leave only the double flowered ones and you take these off, and if you're collecting your own seeds, over time you're going to have a lot more of these, the double ones, the really nice big ones. That's what my mother-in-law told me anyway. And she's been collecting seeds for probably 40 years. She's collected her own zinnia seeds. So my trombone squash are doing a great job by making this archway look pretty and like something out of a fairy garden. Some of them have fallen down when we've mowed, but there's a bunch, still a bunch hanging up there. And if they fall down, I just stack them against the side here, and I'll either cure them, I'll wait for them to cure, and if they don't cure enough to store, it's not a big deal. I will just feed them to the pigs before they are completely cured. They will provide the pigs with nutrition even if they're not completely cured. Okay, so I want to show you one of my favorite things in the garden. So these are scarlet runner beans. They'll bloom very pretty and they'll give nice long beans like this. And then when they are dry, they look like this. They are so pretty. You can tell these are dry because they're all hard. But listen, I think the Jack and the Beanstalk story, I think these are the beans that he discovered because they look magical. I mean, isn't God amazing? Anyway, what do I do with these? I just really collect them in a jar and give them away to friends because they're so pretty. I really do think they, I'm gonna try to cook and prepare them one of these winters. But as of now, this year I'm gonna get a lot. So I'll probably see how to prepare them. They're a pretty big bean. But yeah, as of now, I have simply been sharing them with friends because they're so pretty. And it feels like such a gift when I can give a friend a jar of little bright purple beans. I have a little volunteer pumpkin growing here. This one has grown here for a couple years and it always comes back. So this one took over. The cucumbers were here and the cucumbers kind of die down this time of year, and it's perfect for the pumpkin to take over. So what happens is I will weed all the early pumpkins that I see coming. I will weed those out and wait until late June, early July to let the pumpkin start growing. So here you can see how the cucumber has died, and that's the scarlet runner beans on that side. I've got some more butternut squash on this side of the garden, and we are slowly but surely taking down these sunflowers too and feeding them to the chickens and the pigs and the cows. And the tomatoes they're slow and there's not very many. Looks like I might be able to find enough of tomatoes right here to make some of that rotel that I wanted to make. And you can see that they blighted, which at this point I don't mind, because a little bit of blight right now means that they will just, everything that's here will ripen. And am I going to rush out and buy tomatoes? No. Having a poor tomato year is something that you expect when you garden, and that is why on years where you get lots of tomatoes, you just utilize them all, because gardening, homesteading is never a short-term goal. It's always a long-term. The last 2 years when I did lots and lots of tomatoes definitely will cover for this year's lack of tomatoes. And it gives us an opportunity to, number one, use up what we have on the shelf. And number two, it gives us an opportunity to, so let's say, for example, we are making spaghetti. We're making a pasta dish, a dish that takes pasta sauce 2 times a week. If I know that we may not have enough pasta sauce to get us through a year, it will encourage me to expand my recipes and get out of the rut of making spaghetti every Wednesday night. We'll just have to come up with a different dish, and that dish will reflect what we have a lot of. And so we've become so accustomed to eating whatever we want, whenever we want, that we've totally gotten away from eating according to what the land has provided in the last year. And we start thinking that we need to have access to everything all the time. So when we have a poor year, it's just an opportunity for us to grow in our skills of what do we have a lot of, and eating according to what we've grown. So, do you remember my potatoes that I planted on the 4th of July? And I haven't really talked about them or showed you them very much because I was kind of concerned and worried, wasn't really proud of them. So they did not come up really well. Or the germination rate, is that called germination? Because potatoes already have sprouts? I don't know. Anyway, there was a lot of holes in my rows where they didn't come up or didn't germinate. But I think we're going to have an okay potato crop. They look healthy. We didn't have to fight a lot of bugs on them. And we've covered them all with some hay. So this is kind of an experiment. And, you know, like I said earlier, it's a very good, I'm just finding some weeds here. It's a very good practice for us to, oh man, that weed was so rooted with that potato that I pulled the whole potato out. Pulled the whole potato plant out. I'm not happy about that. But anyway, it'll give us an opportunity to learn to eat more squash, which I'm gonna have plenty of. Eat more squash, eat more sweet potatoes, which, talking about sweet potatoes, let me show you. This right here is my sea of sweet potato vines. Sweet potatoes go everywhere. So here I have red beets, but they're not your regular red beets. They are, let me think. So they're called a fodder beet, meaning they are animal feed, fodder, right? And they're an excellent source of energy as a winter feed for your cattle or any of your animals. And so I learned this from Sean and Beth Doetry, and the variety is Mengewurzel, but they are a fodder beet, and I don't think I planted them early enough to be able to collect the seeds myself, which is what I wanted to do. But we shall see if they actually go to seed. If not, I'll have to buy more seed next year. So sorghum is also a very great source of animal feed. And I'm going to let these out here and let them dry. And a lot of these I will collect for seeds for next year. But they make a very good chicken feed, and the cows will eat the foliage. So that's another one of my experiments for raising more feed for our animals. So here I have lima beans, and I didn't plant a whole lot of lima beans. Lima beans are a very long season crop, and I love lima beans. I picked some yesterday, and I cooked them, and I drowned them in some homemade butter, and I ate them. I started eating them, and Elvin was like, are you going to share those? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't remember that you liked lima beans. I thought I was the only one in the family that loved them. Okay, here behind me, over here, we've got the yard-long beans. And the yard-long beans are what I grow. I dry these for dried beans. You can grow them. You can grow them and eat them as string beans. But I grow them and dry them and then save them for my black beans. Anytime I need black beans, this is what I'm using. So I planted this lettuce, and it's perfect for fall. I may harvest this and put it in the refrigerator. I got to look at the forecast. As long as it's not going to be too hot, it'll be okay out here. But otherwise, I want to preserve it in the refrigerator. And then, of course, I've got the kale here. And we don't really eat kale, but our animals do. So I grow it for the animals. And then I've got some red beets growing here. I've been working on weeding these. These are a late red beet. I didn't get to plant any this spring. I just didn't have space for them. So I planted fall red beets, and they should be okay because they don't mind a little frost. I just got to get all these weeds out of them. And then, of course, our carrots are waiting patiently. I like to wait to dig my carrots until after we've had a good frost, because they are sweeter after we've had a good frost. Oh, there's one other thing. So somebody gave me some Crowder pea seeds, and they have produced like crazy. So I'm also saving some green beans here for seed. I want to try and save my green bean seeds. So the variety that I plant is a jade variety. So I'm letting some of these hang to dry. But here is the Crowder pea seeds, and they're just, I mean, there's going to be a lot. So I'm going to have to learn how to use those. From what I've read, you can use them like a dried bean. So these are probably going to take place of my navy beans. I'm hoping, the one thing that I do with my navy beans is I can a lot of baked beans. So I'm hoping that I can use these to make some good canned baked beans for the family. And they produce so well that maybe it'll be a new thing for me. Maybe I'll grow those instead of the Tar Heel beans. Okay, we're gonna take a quick look through the orchard. Maxwell helped me pick all the pears from our good little pear tree right here. Had some beautiful pears. There's still some that we couldn't reach. There was just no way for me to reach all of those up there. They're beautiful. So I'm just gonna keep my eye out for those to drop. There's this pear tree that this is our oldest pear tree. I always just kind of assumed that I don't know how to grow pears real well. But since this little pear tree is doing so well, I think it's this variety. It's just two things. I think they're ready to pick in August because they start dropping, and they even rot on the tree. And although they taste good, they don't keep. They taste really, really good, but I think it just gets like a blight or a fungus or something every year, and they drop, and some of them even rot on the tree. But the ones that we got from, look who came to find me. The ones that we got from the younger tree are perfect. And then there's this poor little apple tree. We're gonna pick all of these and store them. And with every windstorm, this tree just went over farther. So I've resigned myself to saying goodbye to this faithful little apple tree that has given us bushels and bushels and bushels of apples over the last 5 years. We've got other apple trees coming that haven't done too bad, but we're definitely going to replace this one with the same variety. And I'm sorry, I can't tell you what variety it is. Elvin knows what it is. He can tell you. 1, 2, yeah, we have like 4 apple trees, 2 pear trees, 2 plum trees, 2 cherry trees. So we have a spot for 1 more fruit tree right here. We don't need 50 fruit trees. We just need enough to feed the family. And this is about the only bigger our orchard is. 1, 4, 8 for about 12 trees. That's about how big the space for our orchard is. We could absolutely plant an orchard somewhere else on the property too. So this is our berry garden. I call it the berry garden because that's what we're working on, is making this full of berries. We've got blueberries that are doing well. We've got strawberries. And then, of course, I've got celery and some herbs in there. But my plan is to fill 4 of these raised beds with blueberries. Right now I've got 2 full of blueberries. These are blueberry plants. My plan is to have 2 strawberries, 4 beds full of blueberries, and then have 2 beds for herbs. And then all the way up here at the top, I've started some more red raspberries here. They're not too happy, but I'm not going to get too discouraged. We will see what they do next year because I really only planted them this spring. So we'll give them some more time to get established. And then the grapes, we've already harvested those. And then here I've got some more zinnias coming for seeds. And of course, a lot of volunteer sunflowers all over. But yeah, Elvin has taken the boys and gone to Menards. It's a beautiful evening, quiet evening on the farm. After being in the city all day, I think I'm gonna go get on the Ranger and gather some feed from the garden for the animals and call it a day. Guys, that brings us to the end of this week's video. Thank you everybody for being here, and the fall looks very, very busy for our family. We're having a book launch party here on the homestead, so we're trying to keep things up well so that things aren't all tumble down around us when we have guests over for the book launch party. And so I never know what from one week to the next, what I'm gonna be doing, but I thank you for hanging out with us. I really appreciate you guys showing up here every week.